So we add to the concept of telling your story, or to live the story that you want to tell. And we discussed last time the idea of not following other people's narratives and building your own. So the new question becomes, how do you build your own narrative? How do you write your own story? And the one thing, I think the book that had a great impact on me, I think I read it about almost more than 25 years ago for the first time, and it was by Dr. Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And the interesting thing is he wrote this actually while he was going through 6 years of Nazi concentration camps during World War II. He was a Jewish Austrian psychologist, actually captured when the Nazis took over Austria, and then he went through Auschwitz and Dachau. The point that I want to make is this magnificent book that he wrote. Basically, he wrote it while he was going through the hell. And he wrote it with the intention that he would change the world because of what he was learning while he was going through his desert experience. So, one of the most important things you find in his environment is the idea of becoming a life that has meaning. And how he frames this is using a quote from another philosopher by the name of Nietzsche. And he says, if you have a powerful enough why, you can deal with almost any how. And the point of that is a lot of people are so focused on the how. The how is the mechanics. And what they do not focus on is the why. The why is the heart-driven passion of why you do what you do. So in his idea of creating his third school of psychology, the most important thing that he focuses on when he's dealing with anyone, whether they have some level of psychological ailment, psychosis, neurosis, something like that, or whether it's just a simple focus on how do I supercharge my life? How do I get myself from this lethargic, watching 3 to 5 hours a day of television and playing on social media, back and forth with the drama that in the end doesn't really matter. How do I do something that counts? How do I do something that makes the world better? And not everybody has that altruistic, humanitarian perspective, but here's what he found. The concept of asking why to why are you doing what you're doing? And then you ask why 5 to 7 more times. And every time you get an answer, you ask why again. So when you ask yourself, well, why am I doing social media? You say, well, I want to be able to hang out with my friends. Then you ask yourself again, why? Well, I enjoy being social and exchanging ideas with them. Why? Well, I enjoy the fun that we have in the bantering and going back and forth. Okay, great. Why? Well, it makes me feel wanted or needed or part of their group. Okay, great. And why is that? Well, making me feel wanted makes me feel like someone cares about me, makes me feel that I'm liked or accepted. Great. And why is it important for you to be liked or accepted? Well, being liked or accepted allows me to feel like I am part of the group, that I'm not alone, and that I'm loved. And why is it important for you to feel part of the group and loved? Well, being part of the group and being part of other people that care about me makes me feel happy. Bingo. So what you see, I just did a progression playing both sides of a dialogue and constantly asking why to each one of the answers as I drill deeper. And the why always comes down in all my years. I've asked and done this kind of dialogue process with thousands of people while I was developing the Rubicon system. And what you will always find is that everyone on this planet that I know, that I have run into, and based on the research that I've done, everyone is looking for that extra way of how they can become happy. And they don't know that they're trying to become happy. They are just doing these things. So they're really not purpose-driven. They have no vision. They have no objective. They're just bumping along through life, going down the stream, hoping that things get better. And we all know that the hoping concept really ends up in a pretty disastrous outcome. So my point is how do we do this on purpose? How do we do it with more mission focus? And if you don't want to use something that's that martial, how about something that just has a lot of heart and it can make this place better because you become better? And the thing is asking yourself this progressive system of whys that Dr. Viktor Frankl came up with. And at the end, what you find out is that you are going toward this thing of happiness, but what you unveil for the very first time is why you're hanging out with your friends. For instance, why you're doing social media, why it's important for you to feel connected and together with other people and part of a group, part of a tribe. Yes, those are primal in our DNA, if you will. But you notice the way that I said that you did not want to be alone. So a lot of times you have things that you're moving away from as opposed to things that you're moving towards. And what you do is if you do this with yourself or you do it candidly with other people, you're going to find out exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it in a very quick fashion. Now, once you figure out what you're doing and why you're doing, sometimes you get these great little epiphanies or ahas, and sometimes you get even great revelations as to, oh, so that's the reason why I keep putting up with these poorly chosen people that I call friends, is my intention was to be accepted by them so I don't have to be alone, so that ultimately I can be happy. Well, at the end of the day, if these friends or peers are not actually producing this level of happiness, but are in fact, like many of our relationships, taking away from our time, taking away from our life energy, and certainly not producing anything towards becoming happy, what you have is now an opportunity, because you have actually drilled down and started looking at the fabric underneath everything that you do. And by doing that, you can now make better choices. For instance, if you now understand that your desire not to be alone is that you're choosing less than affirmative, let's use that way to use a better term. If you're using less than good friends or less than good situations to bring happiness to you, then you're never going to ultimately end up at that level of happiness. You're going to just continue to chase your tail around a tree. So what you have to do is be smart enough to say, okay, what I need to do is maybe have fewer of these relationships. And that's where it becomes very important that you might need to end some of those relationships. Why? Because we only have so much time and capacity from a life energy standpoint. If we are so overloaded with poor quality of choices and poor quality of friends, then what happens at the end, we don't have time for those good relationships to happen to us. So make some space, do some house cleaning, and be aggressive enough to focus on you becoming all that you're supposed to be. Not for other people per se, but you have to be all you're supposed to be for you first before you can be all you need to be for the other people that deserve your care and consideration. And ultimately, when you have the time to better them, you have the time to better the world. So tell the story that you want to tell and live the story that you're wanting to tell. Talk to you soon.